Hi, everyone. Welcome to the English Cast. I'm Ryan, and we're really happy you're here with us today.
Hey everyone, I'm Emma. Whether you're listening on your way to work or relaxing at home, this podcast is here to help you feel more confident using real English in real life.
If you enjoy conversations like this, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the English Cast. It really helps the channel grow. All right, let's jump into today's topic. You know, Emma, I was having lunch with a friend of mine yesterday. He has been studying English for years, and his vocabulary is actually quite impressive. He knows words that even I sometimes forget, but I noticed something interesting while we were talking. Every time I asked him a question, there was this long, painful pause before he answered. It wasn't because he didn't know the answer. It was because he was building the sentence in his native language first.
I know exactly what you mean. It is like watching a computer buffer. You can almost see the gears turning in their head as they take the English input, translate it to their native language. Think of a response, translate that back to English, and then finally speak. It is an exhausting process for the speaker, and it can make the conversation feel very disconnected. We call this the translation trap.
The translation trap is the perfect name for it. It feels safe because you are checking your work before you speak, but it actually slows you down and makes you sound unnatural. Today, we want to talk about how to break that habit. We want to discuss how to start thinking directly in English. It sounds like a superpower, but it is actually a skill that anyone can build with the right practice.
It really is a skill, not magic. And the biggest reason people translate is fear. They are afraid that if they don't check the sentence in their native language first, they will make a mistake. But the irony is that translating often causes the mistakes. Languages have different structures. If you translate word for word from your language to English, you often end up with sentences that sound very strange or confusing to a native speaker.
That is so true. Each language has its own logic. When you think in English, you are using the logic of English. But Emma, the big question is, how? How do you turn off the voice in your head that speaks your native language? It feels automatic. You can't just flip a switch and suddenly be fluent.
No, you can't just flip a switch. It is a gradual process. You have to start small. I always tell my students to start with nouns. Look around the room you are in right now. Don't translate the objects, just name them. If you see a table, don't think of the word in your language and then switch it to table. Just look at the object and let the word table appear in your mind.
I love that exercise. It connects the visual image directly to the English word. It cuts out the middleman. You can do this anywhere. If you are sitting in traffic, look at the cars, the trees, the road signs. Just say the words in your head. Red car, big truck, green light. It sounds simple, almost like a child's game, but you are training your brain to label the world in English.
Exactly. You are building a new pathway in your brain. Once you get comfortable with single words, you can move up to simple sentences. This is where you become the narrator of your own life. Imagine you are the main character in a movie, and you are describing your actions as you do them. I do this sometimes when I am cooking.
I do the same thing. I will be in the kitchen and I'll think, okay, I am taking the milk out of the fridge. Now I am pouring the coffee. Where is the spoon? Ah, here it is. I am not saying it out loud, just thinking it. It keeps my brain in English mode even when nobody else is around. It is low pressure because nobody can hear you if you make a mistake.
That low pressure is key. You are creating a safe space inside your own head, and you are practicing the most common verbs and sentence structures. I am walking to the door. I am opening the window. These are the building blocks of fluency. If you can think these simple thoughts without translating, you are already halfway there. The problem is that many adult learners try to think complex thoughts too soon.
That is a huge point. As adults, we have complex ideas. We want to express deep emotions and political opinions. But our English level might not be ready for that yet. So we think the complex thought in our native language, and then we get stuck trying to translate it. The secret to thinking in English is to simplify your thoughts. You have to be okay with sounding a little bit simpler than you really are.
It is about humility. You have to accept that your English personality is a bit younger than your native personality. Instead of trying to translate a complicated sentence like, I am currently experiencing a significant amount of exhaustion due to my workload, just think, I am so tired today. It means the same thing. It gets the message across. And most importantly, you can think it directly in English.
I am so tired today. That is instant. It flows. The listener understands you immediately. And as you get more comfortable with these simple phrases, your brain will naturally start to add more complexity. But you have to build that foundation of simplicity first. If you try to run before you can walk, you will just trip over your own words.
Another great way to trigger English thinking is to change your environment. We live on our phones and computers. If your phone is set to your native language, every time you look at it, your brain switches back to that mode. But if you change your settings to English, you are forcing your brain to process English constantly. You see settings, notifications, battery low. These become automatic thoughts.
It is immersive. You are creating a mini English world in your pocket. And it isn't just technology. It is about what you consume. If you wake up and read the news in your native language, your brain starts the day in that language. If you can switch that habit, maybe listen to an English podcast while you brush your teeth, you are priming your brain to think in English for the rest of the day.
Priming the brain is such a good concept. It is like warming up an engine. I also think it is helpful to have English-only times during your day. Maybe you decide that your morning commute is your English time. During those 30 minutes, you promise yourself that you will only listen to English and only think in English. If a thought pops up in your native language, you just gently push it away and try to rephrase it.
It requires discipline, but it works. And what about when we get stuck? This happens to everyone. You are thinking in English, flowing along, and suddenly you need a word that you don't know. The temptation to switch back to your native language is huge. You want to grab your phone and open the translator app, but that breaks the flow.
Do not open the translator. That is the trap. Instead, try to describe the word you are looking for. This is called circumlocution. It is a fancy word, but it just means talking around it. If you forget the word for umbrella, don't check the dictionary. Think, the thing I hold over my head when it rains. Your brain stays in English. You are solving the problem using the English tools you have.
That is actually a better communication skill than just knowing the word. Because in real life, you will forget words. Even native speakers forget words. I forget words all the time. I'll say, pass me the thing for the soup. And someone will say, the ladle? And I'll say, yes, exactly. If I stop to look it up on my phone, the conversation would die. Describing it keeps the connection alive.
Exactly. And thinking in English is also about emotional connection. Try to react to things in English. If you drop your keys, instead of saying the curse word in your native language, try to think, oh no, or oops. If you see something beautiful, think, wow. These small emotional reactions are very powerful because they say to bypass the logical part of your brain. They come from the gut.
That is a really fun tip. It makes the language feel more personal. It stops being a subject you study and starts being a way you express yourself. I remember when I started dreaming in my second language. That was a crazy moment. I woke up and realized that the characters in my dream were speaking the language I was learning. That is when I knew my brain had finally accepted it.
Dreaming is the ultimate sign, but you can't force that. What you can control is your daily monologue. There is another specific technique I like to use called recapping. At the end of the day, when you are lying in bed before you go to sleep, take 2 minutes to review your day in English. Today I went to work. I had a busy meeting. I ate a sandwich for lunch. I'm tired now.
That is brilliant. It is like a diary, but in your head. It helps you process your memories in English. And because you are lying in bed, you are relaxed. There is no pressure. You are just telling yourself a story. And if you realize you don't know how to say sandwich, you can look it up the next morning. It gives you a goal for the next day.
And speaking of goals, don't aim for 100% thinking in English. That is unrealistic. You will still think in your native language most of the time, and that is fine. The goal is just to increase the percentage. If you can go from 0% to 5% this week, that is a massive victory. Maybe next month it will be 10%. It is a slow climb, not a race.
I think that relieves a lot of pressure. People think it has to be all or nothing. But even thinking in English for 5 minutes a day changes your brain structure over time. It makes the retrieval of words faster. It makes the grammar feel more intuitive. Eventually, you stop asking, is this grammar rule correct? And you start asking, does this sound right?
Does this sound right? That is the intuition we are aiming for. That is when you know you are thinking in English. You are relying on the feeling of the language, not the textbook rules. It is like music. You don't think about the notes on the page. You just feel if the melody is in tune. When you translate, you are focused on the notes. When you think in English, you are hearing the music.
I love that analogy. You are hearing the music, and I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, Emma. Reading. Reading is a form of thinking in English, but someone else is providing the thoughts. When you read a book or an article, you are letting the author's English voice take over your internal monologue. It is like training wheels for your brain.
Yes, and reading allows you to see how words connect naturally. When you read, you aren't translating word for word. You are following the flow of the story. If you read enough, those patterns start to stick. You will find yourself using phrases you read in a book without even trying to memorize them. Your brain just thinks, I saw this before, so this is how I say it.
It is all about input and output working together. But the thinking part, that is the bridge between the two. You know, I have a challenge for our listeners today. We love giving practical challenges. For the next week, I want you to pick one activity that you do every single day. Maybe it is making coffee, walking the dog, or taking a shower.
Those are great examples. Choose a routine task where your mind is usually wandering, and for that specific task, commit to narrating it in English, just for those 5 or 10 minutes. Tell yourself what you are doing, what you are seeing, and how you are feeling. Don't worry if it is simple. The water is hot. The soap smells good. Just keep the internal voice in English.
And if you catch yourself drifting back to your native language, which will happen, don't be angry. Don't judge yourself. Just gently switch back. Say, oops, back to English. Treat it like a meditation. You are training your focus. After a week, you might be surprised at how automatic it starts to feel during that specific activity.
And once you master the shower, you can move to the commute. Then the grocery shopping. Step by step, you claim parts of your life for English. Eventually, you will find yourself reacting to things in English without even trying. Someone will bump into you and you will think, "Excuse me," before you think of it in your own language. That is a wonderful feeling.
It really is. It feels like unlocking a new part of your identity. You become a bilingual thinker. And remember, this helps your listening skills too. When you stop translating, you can listen faster. You aren't wasting time decoding every word. You are just understanding the meaning as it comes at you. It makes conversations so much less stressful.
Stress is the enemy of fluency. Anything we can do to lower the stress is a win. Thinking in English removes the stress of translation. It makes you present in the moment. You are not stuck in your head checking grammar books. You are right there in the conversation, connecting with the other person. And ultimately, isn't that why we learn a language? To connect?
Absolutely. Connection is the goal. We want you to feel confident enough to share your ideas and your personality with the world. And thinking in English is the key that unlocks that confidence. It takes time, it takes patience, but it is completely possible for every single person listening to this podcast.
You have the tools. You have the Ford method from our last chat for topics, and now you have the strategies to think directly in the language. You are building a complete toolkit for fluency. We are so excited to see where this takes you. Keep trusting the process.
We really are. It has been great exploring this topic today. I hope you feel inspired to start narrating your day and labeling your world. It is going to feel a bit strange at first, but stick with it. The results are worth it.
All right, that brings us to the end of today's episode. We hope this conversation helped you see English a little more clearly and a little more naturally.
Remember, progress comes from small, daily practice. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the English Cast so you don't miss the next one.
And as always, keep learning, keep speaking, and keep connecting.
Thanks for spending your time with us. We'll see you in the next episode.